December 4th, 1969, 4:30 in the morning. The city sleeps, but death is wide awake. Inside a small West Side Chicago apartment, a 21-year-old man lies unconscious in bed beside his pregnant fiancée. He has been drugged, unable to wake, unable to fight. Suddenly the door explodes inward, and 90 shots tear through walls, through flesh, through futures. When the gunfire stops, a Chicago police officer approaches the motionless body, fires 2 final rounds into the young man's head, and says 5 words that would echo through history. He's good as dead now. His name was Fred Hampton, and his murder was not random violence. It was an assassination orchestrated by his own government. To understand why they killed Fred Hampton, you must first understand the America he was born into. The 1960s, a decade of revolution, of change, of blood. Jim Crow may have been dying in the South, but in the North, oppression wore a different mask. Black families were crowded into deteriorating neighborhoods, denied mortgages, denied jobs, denied hope. In Oakland, California, less than 3% of police officers were black, yet they policed black communities with violence, with contempt, with absolute power. The chains of slavery had been removed, but the chains of injustice remained invisible yet unbreakable. And in this climate of desperation, 2 young men would dare to fight back. October 1966, Oakland, California. 2 college students sit at a small table and write words that will shake an empire. Bobby Seale and Huey Newton had watched their communities suffer long enough. They had seen the Watts riots, witnessed the rage of a people pushed beyond breaking point. And so they created something new, something powerful, something terrifying to those in power: the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Their philosophy was simple yet revolutionary. If the police would not protect black communities would protect themselves. Armed with shotguns and law books, they began patrolling their own streets, watching the police, filming brutality and demanding accountability. For the first time in American history, the hunters had become the hunted. But revolution requires resources, and resources require money. Newton and Seale discovered an unlikely fundraising method. They purchased copies of Mao Zedong's Little Red Book and sold them to leftist college students for triple the price. In Bobby Seale's own words, "We sell the books, make the money, buy the guns, and go on the streets with the guns. We'll protect a mother, protect a brother, and protect the community from the racist cops." This wasn't chaos, this was calculated community defense. But those in power saw only threat. California Governor Ronald Reagan, the man who would later become president, signed legislation specifically designed to disarm the Panthers. Ironically, the same politicians who today champion gun rights were the first to take them away when black people exercised them. But the Black Panther Party was never just about guns. It was about a vision of freedom America had never seen. Newton and Seale crafted their 10-point program, a manifesto demanding what should have been basic human rights: an end to police brutality, free health care for all, full employment, education that told the truth about America. These weren't radical demands. They were promises America had made and broken for centuries. Soon, party leaders were being invited to speak at universities and churches across the nation. The message was spreading like wildfire, and nothing terrified those in power more than hope. January 1969, a revolution begins with a simple meal. The Black Panther Party launches the Free Breakfast for Children program, and in its first year alone, feeds over 20,000 hungry children. By the end of 1969, 36 breakfast programs operate across America, run by volunteers, funded by donations, powered by love. During these meals, children learn about their history, their worth, their power. Lessons no American school was willing to teach. Many of these children had never had breakfast before. Many came from homes where food was a luxury. The Panthers weren't just feeding bodies, they were feeding souls. But someone was watching, and he was determined to destroy it all. His name was J. Edgar Hoover, the most powerful lawman in American history, and perhaps its most dangerous. As director of the FBI, Hoover commanded an empire of surveillance, manipulation, and murder. And he had one obsession above all others: the Black Panther Party, Hoover declared, without question represents the greatest threat to the internal security of the country. Not the Soviet Union, not organized crime, not foreign terrorists, a group feeding children breakfast. And so Hoover launched COINTELPRO Black Nationalist Hate Groups, a program designed to neutralize black leaders through any means necessary. He had already targeted Malcolm X, deepening divides that contributed to his assassination. He had sent letters urging Martin Luther King Jr. to take his own life. Now his sights were set on a new target, a young man rising in Chicago who represented Hoover's greatest fear. Fred Hampton was only 18 when he became a revolutionary, but his voice carried the weight of centuries. In high school, he led walkouts demanding black teachers and black homecoming queens. By 19, he commanded 500 young activists fighting for better schools. "We're going to fight racism with solidarity," Hampton thundered. "We don't fight capitalism with black capitalism. We fight capitalism with socialism." But what made Fred Hampton truly dangerous to those in power wasn't his politics. It was his ability to unite. Hampton forged the Rainbow Coalition, bringing together Black Panthers, Latino young lords, poor white Appalachian migrants, Native American activists, people who had been taught to hate each other. For the first time, the oppressed saw their common enemy, and that enemy wore a badge. But the FBI had a weapon more deadly than bullets: betrayal from within. His name was William O'Neill, a young black man who had stumbled into a choice that would haunt him forever. O'Neill later admitted he was apolitical. He joined the Panthers thinking they were just another gang. In exchange for immunity from federal car theft charges, O'Neill became the FBI's eyes and ears inside Hampton's inner circle. He drew detailed maps of Hampton's apartment, noting where Hampton slept, where weapons were stored, where the exits were. And on the night of December 3, 1969, William O'Neill would do something unforgivable. He drugged Fred Hampton's drink, ensuring the young leader would never wake up to fight back. 4:30 a.m., December 4, 1969. The cold Chicago air carries the sound of boots on stairs. 14 officers from the Cook County State's Attorney's Office move into position. They know exactly where to go, exactly where Hampton lies unconscious. The door bursts open, and 99 rounds tear through the apartment in 12 terrifying seconds. Police later claimed a fierce gun battle occurred, but forensic evidence tells a different story. Of the nearly 100 shots fired, only one came from inside the apartment. Fred Hampton never fired a shot. He never even woke up. Witnesses would later testify that an officer stood over Hampton's motionless body, fired 2 final rounds into his head, and spoke those haunting words: "He's good as dead now." In the hours that followed, the official story was already being written. Police claimed they came in peace, that Panthers had opened fire first, that officers acted in self-defense. But lies have short lives when witnesses survive. Independent investigations revealed the truth. Police had fired over 99 shots. Panthers had fired 1, possibly accidentally as the shooter was killed. When federal investigations exposed FBI involvement, the depth of the conspiracy became clear. The FBI had provided the floor plan, coordinated with local police, and suppressed evidence afterward. 13 years of legal battles followed, and in 1982, the city of Chicago and federal government finally paid $1.85 million to Hampton's family. But no amount of money could resurrect a 21-year-old. No settlement could restore a father to his unborn son. Fred Hampton's murder was not an ending. It was an extinction event. Across the country, Panther leaders were assassinated, imprisoned on false charges, or forced into exile. The message was clear: fight back and die. Young blacks, one historian noted, quickly demonstrated they were not willing to put themselves on the line for Panther ideals when the price was their lives. And so the free breakfast program died, until the federal government quietly adopted the concept years later, never crediting its origins. J. Edgar Hoover had achieved his goal. The Black Messiah would never rise. The revolution that could have transformed America was buried in a Chicago cemetery at 21 years old. For 17 years, William O'Neill lived under a new name, protected by the FBI he had served. But guilt cannot be hidden forever. In 1990, O'Neill broke his silence in his only public interview. Watch his face in that footage. The shifting eyes, the hollow voice, the weight of betrayal crushing him with every word. On the night the documentary Eyes on the Prize aired, featuring his confession, O'Neill ran into Chicago traffic and ended his own life. Some called it guilt, others called it justice. But perhaps it was simply a man who could no longer live with what he had done. Fred Hampton once said, "You can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution." He was right. Today, Fred Hampton's legacy refuses to die. In 2021, the film Judas and the Black Messiah introduced Hampton to a new generation. Millions who had never heard his name suddenly understood what America had stolen. Fred Hampton Jr., born just weeks after his father's assassination, has spent his life carrying the torch, reminding us that the fight continues. Across the country, new Panthers have risen, different names, same mission, feeding the hungry, protecting the vulnerable, demanding justice. "I am a revolutionary," young voices declare, echoing a man they never met, proving that bullets cannot kill ideas. The FBI's greatest fear has come true. Fred Hampton did become a messiah, not in life but in death, inspiring millions to rise. Listen to Fred Hampton's voice. Feel the power, the conviction, the love that terrified an empire. "So you can murder a liberator," he declared, "but you can't murder liberation." They silenced Martin. They silenced Malcolm. They silenced Fred, but they could not silence the truth. The chains they feared we would break are breaking. The Messiah they killed at 21 has become millions. This is not just black history. This is American history, a story of what happens when power fears the powerless. Fred Hampton, August 30th, 1948, December 4th, 1969, chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party, Revolutionary Forever 21. Remember his name, tell his story. The revolution continues.